Oh,
little
hold this
bean.
little fish.
Why are you so squashy?
Oh.
Why are you so squashy?
Long way to make it so it's not so, like, are we too close? It
This
looks
is correct.
normal
Yeah.
when I'm looking at it there.
Yeah, that's good.
But it feels not normal when I'm
We
looking
don't
at
usually
it
sit
here.
this close to each
I
other.
don't think I've ever sat this close to you in my life. I mean, I'm not hating it, but
The last time we filmed together, we were sitting too far apart and the camera was focused on the background the entire time, so.
I mean, that plant though.
It loves it here though. Look at its new,
No, it's so
look at its
exciting.
new little leaves. It loves it here. The plant is a metaphor for me. I was gonna say it's no skin off our nose, but that's just because I've been trying to say that more, but it's not really the appropriate moment.
We should do a whole video where we just speak in colloquialisms that aren't actually appropriate.
Actually, that's my life because that's what Joe does. His favorite one is to say that it's a real gift of the Magi situation, but when it's not, like gift of the Magi.
But in what context?
Anytime there's some sort of like crisscross or switcheroo.
It's a real gift of the Magi.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, wait, let's do the introduction.
Oh, okay. I'm feeling some feelings about my hair.
Your hair looks so good.
Maybe it's just that I'm not wearing any makeup.
I am wearing too much makeup. Like I'm like a clown today. I got carried away. I was doing a Get Ready With Me. I was filming. This isn't how I usually
just
look.
Enough makeup for a person who like talks about makeup on the internet.
I guess that's true. I want you to be comfortable. You want the little mirror?
I feel like I can do it with this mirror.
But it's not the YouTube way.
Should
This
I do-
little tiny mirror so that
Oh, it's so
people
cute.
can still see your
I
face.
feel like I'm in like Beauty and the Beast
I
or
know.
something. Like, show me father. Oh no, the horse. Okay.
Hey y'all, welcome to the first in what we hope will be a series of videos checking in about living in community or living as like a combined household, which is what we are doing. I think pretty much all of you know at this point that Joe and we were cast out into the cold by the pandemic and had to close our business and had to move out of our apartment. And we needed somewhere to go, and we moved in with Julia and her husband Oliver and their baby in their house in Los Angeles. So we didn't have to go far. And we now live in what used to be their dining room and living room. And that's like our suite, now our bedroom and my work room, which is this room. And we've really combined forces. We're not just living here. We're like working together as a group to make everybody's lives go better. And that, you know, has particularly to do with the baby who's 9 months old now, but also with housework and all of that stuff. So you guys have expressed a lot of interest in how it's going. We are here to tell you and also just hang out with you and be together. If this is your first time to my channel, I'm so glad that you're here. Usually I talk about my love of beautiful things and how I'm trying to balance that, indulge in it but without overindulging, be happy, live life but without over-consuming. And if that sounds good to you, you should subscribe. But this video is just going to be about living in Julia's house.
Living, yeah.
Let's go ahead and get it. Oh, do you want to say it? You say it.
Oh, let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video.
We can't say meat in like a meaty way.
Why? Why?
Like the meat.
The meat.
Yeah,
the video.
yeah, do it like that.
Okay, let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video.
That's better than I've ever done. The questions.
Yes.
So I recently filmed a really long Q&A, and all of the questions for the Q&A I solicited from my Patreon patrons. And they were really wonderful. I'll link the Q&A down below and I'll link my Patreon. Thank you again so much to my patrons for providing such wonderful questions. And patrons, you're so on the pulse that a handful of the questions were about the communal living situation. So I yanked them from the list of questions I was answering in the Q&A, and I have them here. So we can go through them and use them as talking points for us.
What has it been now? Like 6 weeks?
I think that's right.
Is that right?
Yeah. We moved in on a Thursday and today's a Wednesday. I think tomorrow's probably the 6 week anniversary.
Okay. I sort of like can't imagine you guys not living here now.
I'm so glad you hear you say that.
No, I feel like I'm so used, like I feel like we are in a rhythm.
Yeah.
Now. You know, it's always like when a new addition comes to the household, which we've had to adjust to a couple of times this year.
Yeah.
There's always that beginning period where you're kind of like, what's this? And like, why is that here? And like, who are these people? Or in some cases, who is the small person who just poops all the time? That's not either you or Joe, just to be clear.
Well,
but it might
I mean,
be Sadie.
yeah, this video is going to be too silly.
Maybe
No,
I shouldn't have had the 3 sips of
no,
wine
it's
that
okay,
I
it's
had
okay.
before.
I had almost the whole glass.
Even though I knew that when you are living with people, they just kind of like see you at all times. No, but do you know what I mean? Even in close friendships, you go back to the place that you're living, unless you live
Yes,
with the
yeah,
person,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you and I have never lived together. You kind of have your friendship in an external setting, and then you like retreat to your own home. And even when you have your friends over to your home, you kind of have an ability to make it look nice and like have things be the way that they are, and like not be in a giant argument with your partner when they show up, and like, you know, you can like get things to be right for like
A
when
little
people
curation,
are over, right?
a little polishing.
Yeah, make it sparkle. And so, like, I intellectually knew that when you guys moved in, just of necessity, we would see each other in more of those candid moments that happen. But I think that I still thought that maybe we all would try to like button it up a little bit more. I'm not saying this as a bad thing.
No, I know.
About
no, I
you,
know. No worries.
It's more about like, I'm surprised at like how little Ollie and I have tried to like button it up around you guys. We're just kind of like, all right, here you are. Like, here's what's going on today.
So Jessica has asked, I would love to know the rules that you set up for the new living with 4 adults, 1 cat, 1 dog, and 1 baby in 1 household, which is what we have. What are your concerns and what are the best options to cover them? And then there was another similar question from Katie. What household agreements and conversations are most helpful in getting all the creatures settled into co-housing? And what topics would you recommend others consider if they're evaluating a similar arrangement? It's weird. It's because at the beginning there was so much labor that went into the systemizing of everything, and now I'm like, I can't think.
No,
I
can't
think
well,
of
I
anything.
also feel like we had kind of a leg up because we know each other really well and we've spent a lot of time together over the years. So that was helpful. I mean, it wasn't like we were going into a communal living situation with people that we had just known for like a year or something like that.
Yeah.
We had a lot of shared history. When you're friends with someone for as long as we've been friends, you kind of develop an understanding of what like might be someone's pressure points too.
Yeah.
So
although I will say that one of the things that has surprised me the most is how little of that stuff there's been. And I don't know if it's the pandemic that like months ago, all of us were kind of like, well, I guess everything I ever thought was true is out the window. And so that has made it like much less difficult to just let things go. And I think also maybe having a baby around, for you guys actually having a baby, but then even for us, like having this priority that's in the house that's like high above anything else. It makes everything else take its proper place. The third option I've thought about with that is that we're old. So like when you're young, like I lived with people in my 20s and people were like, everybody, including me, was doing like thoughtless things, inconvenient things, like messing stuff up, ruining other people's stuff, eating other people's stuff, putting other people's stuff in the wrong place, like making noise at the wrong time. Like when I lived in a house with friends in my 20s, there was always strife around inconsiderate behavior, even from the most considerate people. And I just feel like the 4 of us are between the ages of 35 and 40. Has there even been a moment of like inconsiderate behavior? I actually don't think that
I feel like it's been like on the other end of the spectrum. Actually, like we're all so worried about being inconsiderate, so we're like, is it okay if I take your 1 egg that you're saying that you
even that we've gotten better at, but you're right, we really all erred on the side of like consideration. But I also think we also all erred at the same time on the side of flexibility.
I mean, I feel like honestly the big conversations were all around the allocation of time, because part of what made the situation attractive to us, to Ollie and me, was the fact that, like many parents during this very strange time, we have been working full time and caring for our child full time since March. We've like been sequestered in our house. My husband has two parents who are in a high risk category should they contract COVID. So we've been very careful about not going anywhere. We are both fortunate and privileged to be able to do our jobs remotely from our house. And so that's basically where we've been since the beginning of March. There are some really beautiful things about that. I've had a lot more time at home with my baby than I thought I was going to this year. And it's just been the joy of my life to get to spend time with her every day and watch her change and grow. But it's also incredibly stressful to negotiate two people with full-time work schedules and childcare that is also full time. We also both have work obligations, meetings, and for me, teaching, because I teach law, that just cannot always involve a baby being present. Ollie has a more traditional kind of 8 to 6 situation. What that meant is that oftentimes during the day, the bulk of the childcare was falling to me, and then when she would go down at night, I was doing an extra, 5 or 6 hours of work after she would go to bed to try and get all my work for the day done.
You guys, she was waking up at 6 with the baby, taking care of the baby all day, putting the baby to bed, and then starting her work day. And then working like all the whole work day after the baby went to sleep and then going to sleep. I know you just said that, but I'm just trying to make it like completely clear. It was like nothing was not getting done. It was just like all like a lot.
It was a lot. It was a lot. But I want to also say it was a lot, but it's also what a lot of parents are doing right now. So I'm certainly not unique in being in this situation. And I'm also really lucky that I am able to work from home at all. I don't think that I processed it being a lot at the time that it was happening. With most things in life, when you're presented with a kind of quasi-crisis situation, you just kind of snap to and do the things that needed to be done. I actually remember at some point in I don't know, June or July being like, well, maybe I could just do this forever. Like maybe I could just maybe I'll just hang out with my baby all day and then I'll just work 7 hours a night and it'll just be fine. It's cool. Because I had gotten so adjusted to that reality. I think that's true in any case because of all of the demands that fall on parents who both work and take care of children in any capacity. You just kind of reach deep within, and pull out of that reservoir strength that you didn't know you had or energy that you didn't know you had. I remember thinking at some point early on, wow, it's incredible how much I could do on so little sleep. But I didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm going to die if someone doesn't come here and help me with this baby. I kind of felt like, all right, we're doing this. It isn't ideal, but we're making it work. So I say all of that to kind of frame where I was going, I think, at the beginning of this, which was that a lot of the conversation was around the management of time, even though I understood that part of what Hannah and Joe felt like they were bringing to the situation was the ability to take some of the pressure off by helping with childcare and helping with things around the house. I wanted us all to be really upfront about what our needs were in terms of getting the work we wanted to get done this year completed, so that no one felt like their work was being sidelined to take care of the baby or do the dishes or cook the food or any of the other things that have to happen to keep our house running.
I think that key to it feeling like it's working out has been that all four of us are we tend to see tasks that need to be done and then do them without sort of waiting around for someone to tell us that they need to be done or putting them off. There's no real duty shirker. My job with Joe, just in our partnership, has always been to plan all of the meals and order all of the groceries and cook all of the meals. And I rarely have been said to him oh, I just can't hack it today. Almost never, because it's being traded for labor that he does, which is to do all the cleaning. So I don't feel like I really have the right to be like, oh, I'm not really feeling it today. You're just gonna have to like deal. And so we were coming into this living situation already with a sense of like household work contract as part of our partnership. Like we understand that household labor is a kind of equity, you know what I mean? It's like a kind of contribution that's equal to a monetary contribution, because that is how it works in our house. Like we have our monetary resources and we have all of the labor that needs to be done, and we treat all of the earning, whether you're like earning the meal being done, earning the dishes being clean, or earning money to put toward, like we treat it all as equal. I actually think it's a very important feminist concept, because a lot of the household labor that has traditionally been treated as just throwaway, not the same as labor that earns money, that's traditionally women's work. So until we all believe and behave as though washing the dishes is as valuable as like having your call, unless we behave as though those things are equal, women are losing, because that stuff often still falls to women. And so the work that women's work gets treated as lesser. It's a very short leap to women being treated like any labor that they do is less valuable, even in the workplace. So we were already running our house that way, as a way of being a feminist household, Joe and I together. And I think you guys in many ways were. And that made it easier to combine forces, because we all feel like, and it also made it easier for Joe and me to like pick up the slack in places where all these little things that need to be done that is just so hard to get done when you have a baby and a job. And I think because we value that work, we feel as though we are contributing when we do it, and it helps us to feel like the whole situation is balanced.
I feel like even though you're right, even though you and Joe were in a situation where you were treating labor in this way, and even though Ollie and I were also and understood it in that way, I think there's such an overarching societal conception of what value attaches to that labor that when you guys came here, we were still self-conscious about allowing you guys to do things that like we knew you said you were coming here to do and that like you wanted to do. And I mean, like there was like a point where Joe was like, you need to stop washing the baby bottles because that's like, I'm here for washing the baby bottles.
He literally said, if you do it, you're taking away my ability to contribute. Like so actually this is like a thing, we were like so not doing what we're supposed to do.
We're not doing it at all. It's so hot under these lights. How do you do it?
I'm sorry. It's real. So here's the thing we've been doing. We decided to have a family dinner every 2 weeks. And we do end up kind of sometimes eating together, just randomly some nights. If we happen to be having dinner, like everyone happens to be having dinner at the same time, we'll be all at the table together and we'll be talking. But every 2 weeks we schedule a family dinner and we sit down. One person brings up any concerns that they think might be on the table and sort of runs the meeting and says like, okay, I've thought of these 3 things, let's talk them over, and then opens the floor for other people if they have things. And we're rotating through people to run the family meeting. So the first one, I ran it. 2 weeks later, Ollie ran the family meeting. 2 weeks after that, Joe ran the family meeting, and then Julia will run the next family meeting. So that we did that to keep from defaulting to the same person's style of leadership. If we hadn't consciously made sure that we rotated through leadership, the same people or the same person would have ended up leading the family meeting every time, and then our way of running our household would have like slowly become tailored to that person's leadership style, and we didn't want that to happen. So we're rotating through. I think it was like the 2 weeks in the family meeting or something, Joe literally said, he was like, if you keep washing the baby bottles, he said this to Julie and Oliver, if you keep washing them and your dishes, like he was like, if you keep washing your own dishes instead of just leaving them in the sink for me, you're taking away my ability to contribute to the household. I was like, and you guys were like, oh,
it was great because I think it was like, you know, one of those things that needed to be vocalized because it allowed everyone then the freedom to be like, okay, I don't feel bad about this anymore. Like any guilt that might have been attached to that. I mean, I do think that there is also something like just from my end. Part of why we bought this big house was because we have a lot of friends and family that we love to entertain, including a lot of friends that don't live here in Los Angeles. And before this whole pandemic nightmare, we loved having people come and stay with us for a week and live with us and hang out. And, you know, a big part, I think, of our identity, and especially mine, was being a good hostess. So when you have friends move in with you, even when you've had a conversation around it being a communal living arrangement and understanding it to be something different. I mean, we did all intellectually understand this to be something different than like, your friends are just coming to live with you for a long time. I mean, we all very much went into this not wanting Hannah and Joe to feel like guests in the house, but rather to feel like part of a kind of new family arrangement that we were building. But, you know, old habits die hard. And so I think it was still hard for me to let go of wanting you guys to feel like the most comfortable.
Yeah.
And it was helpful to have that reminder from Joe, both to kind of like, again, reiterate the value that we all attach to that work, but also, I mean, I think I have a personality where I kind of like, I'll give you the shirt off my back. My primary concern is that other people feel comfortable. And so if that chips away at my own time or my own resources, that's not as big a deal to me, because it's more valuable to me that other people feel comfortable or like things are good. And so it was helpful also to have that reminder from Joe that part of why we're doing this is so that I can kind of reclaim some time for myself too, which has been a challenging concept to wrap my head around.
It was almost like we had to phrase it like, you trying to make us feel comfortable is making us uncomfortable, for it to like hit home.
That's literally
that was happened. That was like a thing that happened, which nobody was like mad or sad about it. It's just like, of course it took time to adjust, and it's still, I mean, like, I think we're still, every week is like kind of like a new frontier of figuring out how things can run more smoothly, and we can be of better use, and, you know, finding that line between like really helping someone and like getting in their business and like doing something that they don't want you to do. Like, we're having to feel out that line.
Well, and I think it's a particularly challenging line that you're trying to feel out with me in particular because of the baby. In any event, when you come into a situation where a person has been doing something themselves, all by themselves for so long, there might naturally be a tendency of that person to be like, I've got this, I can do it myself, like, it's okay, don't worry yourself with it. And I think that, you know, and I was saying that, or trying to express that a little bit earlier, that like by the time that Hannah and Joe showed up, I felt like, okay, I've been doing this, I'm okay. It wasn't actually until they got here that I was like, oh, that was really hard, actually. So I was already starting from this place of like, okay, well, if I still have to do most of it myself, that's cool with me. And then on top of that, layered on top of that, is just the fact that I love spending time with my baby. You know, I am just in that process that many working mothers, all working mothers, go through when they return to work after having a baby, of negotiating what that looks like, what your new work identity looks like, what your new identity as a woman looks like, where you allocate your time and emotional resources. And that's a thing that would have happened whether or not all of this had happened. But it's just happening in a really different way. Because if we had no pandemic, I would have gone back to work. I would have sent my baby to daycare. I would have sat in an office and done my work. And then I would have picked her up and spent a couple hours with her in the evening. And that would have been my life. And I think that would have been really challenging. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine that because I haven't had that separation from her.
But you would have adjusted because it's the cultural norm.
Right. Yeah. And it would have been I imagine that it would have been like sort of a ripping off of the Band-Aid. You really can miss a big thing by being away for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And so I do want to try to spend as much of her waking time with her as I possibly can. And because I have the privilege of being able to restructure some of my work obligations so that I can work, do my writing work or do editing and things like that after she goes to sleep. Sometimes I choose to structure my day so that I have time to spend with her when she's up and about. But what that practically means, if you're a person dealing with me, is that I'm in this weird, still transition period. Before I was doing that out of necessity, before I was doing it because there had to be a person watching the baby during the day. Now it doesn't have to be me all the time, but sometimes I still want it to be me, even though I also have things that I want to get done with my work that sometimes I would like to get done during the day and not at 9:30 at night. So I'm still in the process of kind of making that adjustment, trying to let go of some of those daytime hours and remind myself that even whatever time that I get with her now is still so much more time than I would have had in the alternate universe where none of this ever happened.
But it's required flexibility from us in terms of what we like. When we moved in, I had a lot of anxiety about immediately showing how useful we are and making sure that I wanted to I was we're gonna get there, we're gonna transform their existence to prove that it's not a bad idea to welcome us in, you know what I mean? So I had high level anxiety for the first couple of weeks about I wanted to do the most and boots on the ground and always be there and suddenly you'd be oh my gosh, my life is so magical, I have so much time.
I mean, do you feel like
She's so great. You're in the corner.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. You're just turned to be with me. Yeah.
I'm
Okay, the camera just, I think, overheated and shut off and probably lost a whole clip. It's so garbagey. And then when I was over there, I noticed that Julia was in the corner. We don't know how much footage we lost.
Hopefully
so it's probably
not
a
any,
lot of brilliant stuff.
It was really good.
It was so good. But I was just saying that because it's not a situation where Julia and Oliver want to literally hand over responsibility for their baby for 6 solid hours. You don't want a daycare situation. That's actually a benefit of this situation. We understand that they don't want that. They don't want it to be it's you're in charge now for the entire day of her. They want to be able to be with her whenever they can. What that means for the people who are the point people for taking care of her is that we have to constantly adjust to the way that schedules change. So a lot of the way that my days are scheduled in terms of childcare, I'm available, and if this happens, then if A happens, then I'll do B, and if A and C happen, then I'll do F, and if A, C, and X happen, then I'll do Y. And you know what I mean? There are all of these sort of contingencies, and we're all kind of connected and texting and making sure, okay, she woke up, well, she's napping, I don't know how, when she woke up at this time, and then our dinner is going to be at this time. And so if you're here and the call goes until here, then Ollie will do it. And if I'm here, but you're still, your meeting's still happening, then Joe will do it. And if blah, 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 there's a lot, it's that a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it's taken some getting used to that because it's inviting many other people into your cognitive process and your decision-making process and your process of being responsible. If I was planning to get her up from her nap, but then your meeting ended and you got her up because you wanted to, part of me feels a little bad because I'm but that was my job and I was supposed to do, and then I have to be but that's what Julia wants. And there's just, again, it's all of this ego and self-consciousness and stuff, and you have to just calm it down and leave it at the door, because it's just not useful.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel I was going to say that we had a little bit of a jump start on you guys with that aspect of things, because you just have to, you leave your ego and all your preconceptions at the door when you have a baby, because things just inevitably do not go that you think that they're going to go on literally any day. So, I mean, I guess if the first thing was give it time and be flexible, then the other advice that I would maybe give is be yourself and be communicative about who yourself is. That's not grammatically correct, but whatever.
What even is grammar,
what is grammar?
On my channel?
Everything. Grammar is everything. Grammar is life. I mean, not just to say that I think that it's been really helpful that we've instituted ways of checking in with each other, not just in a more formal way, but kind of informally and also on a daily basis as a necessity of like planning out the next
Yeah,
few
yeah.
hours or whatever. I think it forces us all to kind of be in the project of the household together. You know, there's inevitably an adjustment period, but I think that the more upfront that you can be with people, you know, in a nice way, in a gentle way, if necessary, but but still clear about, you know, how you're emotionally experiencing the situation and what works and what doesn't work for you. I think being upfront about those things early and often is kind of the key
Yeah.
to success, because otherwise you let things fester and they become more than they are. And you know, I think that was something that I definitely did in communal living situations in my
Yeah.
20s, where, you know, it would just irk the bejesus out of me that someone would like pile up all their dirty dishes in the sink and not do them for 3 days. But I'd want to be nice, so I like wouldn't say anything about it until finally, like, you know, after a month, I'd just like lose it and do all the dishes angrily and then like stew and then like glare at them and hope they noticed the next time that I saw. This is my like passive aggressive way of dealing with someone not doing the dishes. I mean, I've never needed to do this because Joe does dishes
Yeah, it's a
way
weird
more.
combination.
Joe makes me self-conscious about how dirty my house was before.
No, I think it's interesting because it's a combination of the fact that I, I don't, I hope that we haven't, but I don't think anyone has done anything that's the equivalent of that. There are some things, like for example, the bathroom that we use is like really dirty and like we need to clean it, but you guys never go in there. So if it was communal, we would have done it, but like it's not like we're all like amazing and we all are so responsible and so clean. It's not like that at all. It's just I think that we all have pretty adult understandings of like what you need to prioritize when parts of your space are shared and what you're getting, you know. So I think that we've been pretty lucky in that way. There's nobody who's like a really sort of like unpredictable, volatile, or inconsiderate person. So that has really helped. I think we should go through and talk about every little system or plan that we've done.
Yeah.
The one that I was going to bring up is the door hangers.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's not like I was stewing and like annoyed or something, but I realized that something was going to become a problem, which is that the space that I'm working in has a door to the communal space and another door to the space that I share with Joe, where his office is. Joe was frequently walking through from the kitchen space to our bedroom where his office is through my space. Sometimes it was fine, and sometimes I would be editing or focusing on my writing work or even filming and really focused, and he would come in and be like, wah, 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 and or just walk through, and it would irritate me because I was like, don't you know that I'm in deep focus mode right now? How dare you? This is my space. And it's like, of course he doesn't know, because this is a pass through most of the day. And then there are these parts of the day. So rather than being like, you know, I was like, okay, this is like a thing that I need to find a way to communicate. And then that door to the kitchen also is a door that you will often knock on or come in or sometimes bring the baby to visit with Sadie. And that is great. I don't want it to be like you're never allowed to knock on my door. And I also don't want it to be that you can only come in when the door's open, because sometimes you have to close it to separate Sadie and Cordy, the dog. So I was like, we need like some sort of system that most people don't have, like most houses don't have, that's unique to the architecture and also the fact that we're like living as a community, rather than being like, you guys, like, and it didn't come into the family meeting and go like, you guys, people need to really just text me before they ever come into my room because blah, 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 which maybe in my 20s I would have done. Instead, I was like, how can I take responsibility for communication and make it like my task to be clear, to be articulate in my own way about my space and make it my job rather than making everyone else's job. And that was how I came up with the door signs, which I will now show you. So I ordered these little foam signs and I drew my own. They hang on the door. So this one's for when I really don't want anyone to come in if they can help it. Obviously, emergencies just trump everything, you know what I mean? But like, This is basically like, please text me if you need me. And also, I can't hear anything, so if you knock, I won't hear. This is the filming sign. Julia and Oliver really worried that they were being noisy when I filmed, but like it's really not a problem. So I also wrote that on here. This is when I am technically in charge of the baby if she needs me, but she might be napping or something. So if I'm down here, but like I'm on call. Basically, that's what that is. This is doing light work. Please come in. Have you seen this one? I haven't had to hang this one yet, but
I really can't wait for the day when that's
someday it's gonna be relevant. Just means like really bad day.
Yeah,
don't even ask. Like I can't even. This
I can't even handle it.
Like everything is just this, and like I can't even choose which one of these is happening because this is like enter at your own risk. Self-portrait. So that's a little system we've come up with, and I mean the food. I guess we could talk about.
Yeah,
how
and
we're
I
doing
feel like
the
the
food.
schedules.
Oh yeah,
like,
talk about the schedule.
Yeah, so I mean, it took some time for everyone to get situated, but what Hannah and I have been doing for the past couple of weeks is just sitting down with our calendars. One thing that I was really concerned about coming into this situation was that Hannah wouldn't feel like she had enough time to do her writing or filming work. It's helpful to sit down at the beginning of the week. For me, my schedule is pretty set. Like I know when I'm teaching, I know when I have meetings with students and with the staff that I work with, my colleagues. Generally, if other things schedule during the week, I have the ability to try to schedule them when my baby is napping or to, in some cases, bring the baby to the meeting. And so it's usually okay to plan the schedule based on what the set meeting times are for me in any given week and then try to start to think about when people might be on call or not on call based on that schedule. So that's basically what we've been doing is kind of sitting down at the beginning of every week and thinking about obligations I have and what obligations Hannah has to her work during the week, and then starting to figure out how to piece all of those things together. And sometimes I think the thing that's been really helpful for me in that process is that sometimes that reveals that there may be extra time in your day. So for example, say that I have calls from 8:30 to 10 and 11 to 12 on a day. If I felt like Hannah really needed that time between 10 and 11 to get something done, then I would be like, I'm available then. I can step in and take the baby. So if Hannah, has a phone call that she has scheduled or she just really needs an hour to like organize something or shoot some footage or whatever it is that she needs to do. But there is also, like for most people, once I get into a flow of work, sometimes it's nice to just be able to go straight through. So if I have a bunch of work stuff that's already going on, and there's like a little hour chunk in the middle and then there's going to be more work stuff, if Hannah has the time in her day, it enables me to be like, could you just take this whole block so that then I know I have an hour there where I can just, answer my emails and work on the writing thing that I'm working on and do whatever worky things I need to get done that otherwise would get pushed, an hour later until the baby is napping. Or,
and when we're blocking out the calendar, you can see that I have the whole rest of the day. Like there's these huge windows that are opening up. So you don't feel so bad about being like, well, let's just block off 9 to noon for me to, be on point for her. But we're just doing it on a week by week basis. We'll sit down on a Sunday and draw out a little Monday through Friday calendar. And this makes me think that the other thing that had to happen, it's so weird because it just happened, but it's like, I already forgot, is that we had to learn how to care for the baby. What we did in the beginning was we had a couple days where we kind of shadowed Julia and Oliver through various activities, and it was really awkward because it was like Julia was just playing with her baby like for an hour, and Joe and I were just in there. Like, we've picked it up over the course of the past month and a half, but we had to be patient. Like, you guys, I'm sure, had to be patient with us, and we had to be patient with ourselves for not knowing immediately how to do all of the things that presumably we're doing to earn our keep. So that's just a thing. I mean, I don't know how many people out there are like moving into houses with a baby in the house, like for like the exact situation, but probably it applies to other things. Let's talk about the food, what we're doing with the food, because
Yeah.
I feel like that's actually one of the ways in which we are pretty intensely sharing something that is like a kind of labor, and I feel like we're like doing it, you know what I mean? That's a kind of labor that I've taken over a lot of, which is like cooking dinners. And it's great for me because I enjoy cooking and I
Which
have
is so funny
practice.
because I feel like I'm doing a lot less cooking than I mean, I was cooking all of our food. Like, I was the person who did that. I'm the person who cooks. And I actually really like to cook and bake. So I'm doing a lot less of that than I thought I was going to be. I'm like equal parts sad and not sad. Like, I mean, it's like a real thrill when
Sorry,
you.
not sorry.
No, I mean, like, but it's not sorry, not sorry, because I am kind of sorry. But like,
That's the sorry part. That's what sorry, not sorry means.
but sorry, not sorry is like, I'm not actually sorry. It's like, not sorry, but I feel like I need to say sorry here at the beginning. That's what sorry, not sorry is.
You're right.
It is a thing that I do that I like doing, but I've done so much of it that it's like kind of a thrill to just have delicious food show up that I didn't make. It's really awesome. But I still feel this, like, first of all, I feel a twinge of guilt that like you are not eating delicious food that you didn't make.
No, it's so much more fun to cook for 4 people than it was to just cook for 2.
I mean, I'm having fun planning the meals with you, which
Yeah.
probably we should talk about.
Yeah, that's what we were trying to talk about. Sorry,
sorry, not sorry. That I am actually sorry, not sorry about. No, I feel like it's also really fun to cook with friends.
Yeah,
and so
we dreamed that we were gonna be like cooking
yeah,
together all
we
the time, and it
cooking
just
together all
hasn't
the time,
shaken
and
down.
we haven't done it yet, and that's
We'll get
mostly
there.
because it's like the cooking needs to happen at a time when the baby is still awake.
So this is like a thing that we've decided. We have a spreadsheet in a Google Doc, so everybody has access to it. On the first page of the Google Doc, it has Monday through Friday, the food we're having for dinner that night. And some nights it's leftovers. So it'll either say cook, that I'm cooking the meal, or that we're eating the leftovers of the meal. And it kind of alternates. It's not even just Monday through Friday. It's all the days.
Yeah, it's all the days of the week.
So we sit down on the weekend and we kind of like look over the week. And I've been sort of asking people like, what do you feel like eating? This is another adjustment because Joe and I were eating a lot more red meat than Julia and Ollie eat. So we've gone down from eating red meat like a couple times a week to eating it only like once every couple of weeks. So it's been like much more chicken and fish. And Julia doesn't eat pork at all. So, and we used to eat a lot of pork. So that's been like it's weird to say it's a huge adjustment because it doesn't feel like that right now. But the reality is that it's very different. Like there are certain things about our food and the food that I cook that's very different, but it's all been great. I have a space underneath that where I put all the ingredients. Did I say we sit down and we look out over the week, and we kind of decide together what would be good meals to have on every night. And then after that's all set, I'll go through and I'll get all the ingredients that we need to make all those meals and list them all out for myself for when I do the shopping, like place the online order. And then underneath that, we have a section for food that's specific to Joe and me, like things that we just want to eat, that we want to buy. And underneath that, there's one for Julia and Ollie, things that they want to eat and all the things they need to make the baby's food. And so then once a week, I place like a giant grocery order for delivery because we are trying to be really, really careful about COVID. Everything at once, and it's all combined. And then Joe and I have to sort out like what food was for everyone, what food was for us, and what food was for them. And then we can like settle up. So that's like a task. I feel like it's like a household management task. It's like a logistics task that it probably takes like 4 hours a week, like at least. It's like half of a work day if you add it all up together, the planning the meals. And that, well, actually, if you had planning the meals, it probably takes like 5 or 6 hours a week. Placing the order, ingesting the food, putting it all away where it needs to go, and then sorting out who owes who what and how much everything cost. That's I think an excellent example of domestic labor that takes like half of a work day that we are like, we're doing, it's like our job, you know, like we're doing it as part of what we contribute to the household, but it's the kind of thing that tends to just like fall to someone or another and doesn't usually tend to get valued as much. But the Google Doc, the Google stuff where everyone can write their stuff in has been really useful. And then Joe made a spreadsheet that is pretty easy to navigate that helps me to like label which food is being paid for by whom, and then the spreadsheet does all the math to spit out like how much everything cost. Took us a while to sort that out. That was like a whole thing.
But now we have a system and it's great.
Yeah, it's a great system. There's a lot of texting that's like, Ollie says, can you get a baby seedless watermelon? Is it too late to add 2 sweet potatoes?
Ollie thinks we need more shaved meat.
Yeah, shaved
meats. For the uninitiated, that means just like regular like sliced turkey.
Deli meat.
It means deli meats.
I want to eat some shaved meats right now.
Yeah.
I'm hungry for some shaved meats. We
Look
literally haven't answered any of the questions.
We gave advice. I like the one that's like, I want to know the rules, but it includes the cat and the dog in that.
Sadie has figured out that the dog can't get her. And so she just is like,
hashtag not bothered.
Yeah, she would just like sit up high and be like, LOL. And Cordy has figured out that Sadie exists in the house and is very worked up about like finding her, seeing her, probably, I don't know, I don't know if she even knows what she wants.
Sadie.
That's kind of the situation. Hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
Kind of is how it's going on.
Yeah.
But Cordy, it's pretty funny because Cordy took a while to warm up to us because she had a traumatic child. Yeah, very young
Cordy,
child.
We adopted when she wandered into our yard as a stray, and we did the whole thing where you like surrender the animal for a few days and no one claimed her. And I mean, when we got her, she was starving and covered in fleas, and someone had just abandoned her. I don't know why, because she's adorable.
She had been mistreated too, I think. She was scared. Yeah. She was really scared of people.
I mean, we basically trapped her. She wandered into our yard, but she wouldn't come into the house, and we had to like lure her with treats, and then we put her in a cardboard box and took her.
She's the sweetest dog.
Really, really sweet, but she's also terrified of people that she doesn't know well. So once you live with her for a while, she kind of warms up and she'll sit with you and let you pet her and hang out, and she's really cute and adorable. But before that, she will bark a lot, especially with Joe. I mean, she's never done particularly well with like
tall, handsome men.
Or really any men.
It took her a while to get used to us being here, but the thing that was funny was that she kind of got used to it, but she would like always be with them, and she would only be with us when we were all together, and then she would like go with them when they left and be like, you know what I mean? Like, you're here, but whatever. Then when she figured out that Sadie was here, she was like, I would like to visit you in your quarters. Every once in a while, she just comes to the door and she's like, hello, how you doing in there? And we're like, Cordy, you're so personable. And she's like, just thought I'd like sit on your rug in here. But it's just because she's looking for Sadie. We've got her number. But it's just funny because it's like she's so transparently just looking for Sadie, because if it weren't for Sadie, she would not want to be with us. But like, we know that it's not us, but she's always just like, hey, what's going on? They've both got a lot of personality.
Yes, they do.
We'll update you. Maybe there will be progress before next time on them, because right now it's kind of just like they keep their distance from each other and they're doing fine.
But they have a lot in common, so we're secretly hoping that one day they'll realize this and then they'll have like a Milo notice thing going.
But they're both like 9.
They are, yeah. So, I mean, it's basically the equivalent of like having your life be a certain way until you're 65. Especially poor Cordy. Like, she's like, first a baby, then these people, and then I find out they have a cat. She's like, I'm old. This is my time to unwind and relax. I'm supposed to be in Florida right now. Like, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Is there anything else that's like logistically? I mean, I think our logistical genius things have been family meeting every 2 weeks where we rotate leadership, the Google spreadsheet and it's one person's job to like do all the food, corral, plan, and one big grocery order a week, and then have someone come through and like basically divide the receipts, and then we settle up once a month. Like that's been a
Yeah.
big thing. And then the like foam handle door hangers, that's pretty new, but like
yeah, but I'm very excited about
I'm
them.
excited about them too. Yeah, it's been
they were a good move.
It's helped me
I'm
stay
so
on task
afraid of
too.
that brown one.
Yeah. We the brown one, don't worry, you'll never see the brown one.
I sure hope I don't.
The schedule, making the little schedule once
yeah.
a week and being kind of on point with that. Is there anything else that we've done?
I feel like we kind of like we don't have rules really, but I do think that we talked about like structures that work well for our household. So, and maybe that's one thing that we could make more explicit, which is the fact that we don't really have like house rules. Exactly.
Like, what would they be?
No, I don't
even know what that.
Right.
I mean, maybe we do, but we just don't think of them as rules.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like to think of it as that like we have formed a society in our home. No, like you know what I mean? Like all I mean, families are themselves societies too. Like, right? I mean, so like you could think of us as an unconventional society or just a really tiny government. But like
we formed a very tiny government.
We have though formed a really tiny government, and we've like come up with a set of like protocols and structures that work for us, and we have all kind of like agreed, whether explicitly or tacitly, to a way of thinking about the household. And so it's not so much that we have rules as that we have like a shared framework, and then everybody operates within that shared understanding of like what the household is. And so you, in that kind of situation, it's like you don't necessarily need all of the rules to be spelled out because you understand the things that are consistent or inconsistent with what the framework is. You know what I mean? And so like we just do the things that are consistent and don't do the things that are inconsistent. I think we're all also kind of treating everything like the stakes are pretty low for most things.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, there are some things for which the stakes are incredibly high, like making sure that the baby is well cared for and that like nothing dangerous occurs in proximity.
And we also don't want to get COVID. And
right.
so that's actually kind of like a thing we're all doing together.
Yes. And we also like really value our friendship with each other and don't want to do anything that would be damaging to that. So those are like the high, I would say the three like super high stakes things that are going on in this situation. But I think that having those three high stakes things as the like undercurrent for the situation actually allows all the other stuff to be put into perspective, because it's like, is it a high stakes thing? Like, is it a thing that's dangerous for the baby? Is it a thing that's gonna like result in us getting COVID? Is it a thing that's gonna like blow up our relationship? And if it's not one of those things, then I think there's a lot more flexibility towards just kind of like letting it roll off our backs. And I mean, I've found that about just kind of like having a baby in general, is that it's a reshifting and a reframing of priorities for me.
And that's been like the name of the game for our whole year.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole year. And so we're all kind of in that mindset of just like, I just feel like none of us is over here being like, I can't live like this when like anything happens. Like there are all of these little things that maybe wouldn't be your first choice or our first choice. Maybe at a different time of life or under different circumstances, I would be like, this just can't be. Like I can't live like that. I can't, you know, it's like, it's not gonna, but anytime anything like that comes up, any one of the four of us is kind of like, but can't you? I mean, to ourselves, you know what I mean? I mean, like, if I ever have that feeling, I'm like, but can't you, Hannah? Because actually you can. And like, it's fine, you know? So that's the way in which like, and it's not like we're all dealing with stuff that makes us miserable. No, because there are some things that are not comfortable. And it's like, I think we're all finding our way to make sure that those things aren't happening in
Yeah, I
our
mean,
lives. Like everything's working out pretty elegantly. It's not like we're putting up with stuff that's not ideal.
Well, and I would put that stuff in the bucket of like a thing that is actually worth getting upset about, because it to me falls in the bucket of like stuff that could be damaging to our relationships with each other. It's like, if there is really something that's like truly bothering somebody about the situation, that can poison the well.
Yes.
And so that's a thing that would rise to the level of like having to be, but I think it's more that like with every, you know, there are a lot of things going on this year in general that are like not optimal. All of it has forced all of us to take each one of those things and assess it like, okay, is the way in which this is not optimal something I can live with, or is it a deal breaker?
Yes.
And then
exactly. Yeah.
Like, and it's, and I, you know, for me, I'm finding that very few things
are deal breakers. Yeah, and I think that's actually, you could even rephrase that as like a piece of advice. It's just like raise your bar for deal breakers. Thank you so much for being on my channel. We can hug because we live together. Yay. We'll be more organized next time. We'll make a list.
But we were trying not to stress out. We were following our own advice about
deal breakers.
Raised bar. And the thing that fell below the raised bar was having any form of organization for this video.
Are you gonna say the outro?
Yeah.
First, I say thank you for watching.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much to my Patreon patrons for the questions. Sorry we didn't get to all of them, but we will. Well, this is only the beginning. And don't forget
to take extra good care of yourself right now so that you can be the best version of yourself as you do your work in the world. We did it!